Hello, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Jordan Walker. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Seaver Walker Paget. Thank you for joining us this evening, this afternoon, to talk about the Ameren grid project. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started. Before I get into it, I do want to let you know that this presentation will be 50 minutes, including questions. I have a hard stop 50 minutes from now because I have another webinar afterwards. So if you do have questions as things progress, go ahead and put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, and I will address them at the end of the presentation if I haven't already answered them with the presentation. So again, my name is Jordan Walker. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Seaver Walker Paget Law Firm. We are an eminent domain only law firm. Seaver Walker Paget, that is, of course. We are, again, eminent domain only, representing landowners only. So we only do eminent domain and we only represent landowners. We have never represented a utility like Ameren. We've never represented MoDOT. We've never represented anybody, any entity that can take land from private landowners. We've only represented landowners. And indeed, this is the only area of law that we practice. If you come to me with a non-eminent domain issue, I can help as best I can, but I'll probably refer you to somebody else because we really focus our practice on eminent domain. This is, the only area of practice I've actually ever practiced as an attorney. So because this is the only area of practice we do, we've learned quite a bit. So today, we are going to try to adjust this camera because I think my shirt might be distracting for some people. But in any event, today we're going to be talking about eminent domain. We're going to be talking about what to do when a transmission line wants your property. We're going to give tips, tricks. We're going to talk about the law, talk about the project as a whole. One question that we get real quick before I move forward. I already indicated that we represent landowners. I do want to stress that we are not with Ameren. And sometimes our letters, when people get them, they're a little confused. They aren't sure who we are, why we are sending them letters. And I just want to stress that we do not work for Ameren. We are not here on behalf of Ameren. We are here on behalf of ourselves to help out landowners. So beyond that, like I talked about, what we're going to discuss here today, we're going to talk about the project. I'm going to share my knowledge. But beyond that, one question that I get a lot is why did you receive the letter? Why did I, landowner, get this letter? The reason why you got the letter from our firm is because according to research we've done online, your property is in the path of this project that we're going to be talking about today. So we'll get into this in a little bit, but we went to used online resources, used the Missouri Public Service Commission website, examined the publicly available maps that exist, identified the properties through public property record information, and sent letters to those people that own property that we believe is in the path of this project. So that's why you received this letter. And I've talked to several people already. They haven't heard from Ameren, and that's perfectly fine. We've talked pretty much, I'd say 80% of the folks that I've talked to on this mailing from this project have not heard anything from Ameren, which is fine. This is their project. They're going to go at their speed, and they're going to come to you when they want your land. So the fact that you may have not heard anything from anybody is not an issue, nothing to be concerned about specifically. We like to get out ahead of these projects, and which is why you received a letter from us. Let's talk about the project. So the project, I'm going to call it the Missouri Grid Program Project. It's actually 3 different projects in one, or in 2 phases, rather. It totals 255 miles of new or upgraded transmission line across northern Missouri. This is not the only grid upgrade project we are monitoring in the Midwest. We are also involved in Ameren's upgrade project in Illinois, representing landowners there. We are involved with landowners in Michigan that are going against ITC, another energy company that needs to upgrade the grid. There are a lot of grid projects that are going on throughout the Midwest. This is one of them. And the effort of all of them largely is to increase the infrastructure, to improve the infrastructure of moving electricity across the state of Missouri into Iowa, into Illinois, and Nebraska, Kansas, so on and so forth. So this is a significant project, very large project, 255 miles of new or upgraded transmission line. If you want to know anything about this project, these are two very important links. The first one is from Ameren's website. That's a long URL. So if you just Google Ameren Northern Missouri Grid Project, the first thing that pops up will be Ameren's website. And while I don't generally send people to go to the energy company's website to to learn things, because they're not necessarily great about doling out information. There is right now, as we sit here, quite a bit of information on Ameren's website, at least about what they want to do, what they're doing. This first website right here is Ameren's website. This is important because they have an interactive map on their website. So I'm sure plenty of people have a question. What are they going to do on my property? How are they going to cross my property? Where are they going to follow? What route are they going to take? And ultimately, you'll find out when they come to you and start talking about acquiring your land. They'll be very detailed in where they want to go. But until that point, it's going to be very difficult to get information from Ameren. So what I tell people is that if you think your property is affected, which if you received our letter, that's a good indication it might be, I would go to this website, and they have an interactive map. Like I said, you can type in your address, you can type in your information, and you can find your parcel in northern Missouri that is affected by this project. And if you don't know what they're doing, I'd strongly recommend taking a look at this website, messing around, finding your property, getting an idea of where they want to go. Now, again, they're not going to be super detailed, these maps, but they at least will give you a rough concept of where they want to cross your property. That's about as good as the information is going to get at this point. The second link is a link to the Missouri Public Service Commission docket. So as we sit here right now, this project is before the Missouri Public Service Commission, which is a utility regulatory commission. Most states have them. And the job of these regulatory commissions, the job of this one, is to approve or reject this project that Ameren wants to build. In order to build this project, they need to get approval from the Missouri Public Service Commission. Both of these, well, as the three projects that the entirety of the program is separated into phase 1 and phase 2. And we'll get into which one is which in the next slide, but there are two different phases. These numbers right here, the EA 2024-0302, that's the docket number. So I put the link to Ameren's website. The second link is the Missouri Public Service Commission website, to their docket. And their docket, there's a docket for each one of the Ameren project. If you look up this number on this website, it should take you to the docket that's determining or approving, rejecting these projects, this project. If you're interested in stopping this acquisition, stopping the project, changing the route, you don't want it built, you don't want it built at all, you don't want to build it across your land, you don't want it built in your area, the time to do that is now. And that is, and the way to do that is to get onto the Missouri Public Service Commission docket. Anybody can do it if you're an affected landowner. Log in, create an account, and intervene in this docket and voice your concern, voice your displeasure, exercise your rights, get before the Missouri Public Service Commission and let them know what you think about it. So for those folks here that are part of groups that are trying to stop it or are trying to stop it already, I would tell you, we're not going to talk a lot about that during this presentation. We're going to talk a lot more about what to do on the more granular scale when they come in and want to acquire your property, what to do at that point. If you're trying to stop it, trying to change the route, the time to do it is now. And the way to do it is to jump on that docket, depending on which property or which project is affecting your property, and let your voice be heard. So for the duration of the presentation, we will assume that this project is approved by the Missouri Public Service Commission. Now, I'm not saying it will be. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion. All I'm saying is that we are going to assume that it will get approved. If it doesn't get approved, they can't build it. It's as simple as that. And there's no acquisition. There's no eminent domain. There's no nothing. If it does get approved, then everything else comes with it. So we are going to prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and assume that this project will be approved for this presentation. So I want to talk about phase one. You'll recall there's two phases of this project. So phase one, these are two relatively smaller segments that are part of the larger project. And again, all of these maps are located on Ameren's website. They're on the dockets as well if you want to look at them yourself. The one to the left, as you can see, this little segment going from Maywood, Palmyra to the Illinois border, that is part of phase one. And then this other, on the other side of the state, there is this small segment that goes up to Iowa through DeKalb and Gentry County. So these two are part of phase one, and they were on this docket. So for phase two, this is the larger part of the project. The thrust of the project is this, and these are project segments. The biggest one being the Denny to Zachary line segment, which goes 105 miles east to west across the state. You can see Jamesport is right there. There was a lot of folks that contacted me from Jamesport. But regardless, this segment is 100 to 105 miles. The Zachary to Maywood segment is 60 miles, and the Zachary to Thomas Hill line segment is 44 miles. So each segment, again, these are all part of phase two. Each segment has its own expected structures that they want to build. So for example, if you are on the Zachary to Thomas Hill line, which is in Adair, Macon, and Randolph counties, they are going to remove the existing line that exists on the properties, their existing H-frames, and they are going to rebuild those into double circuit steel monopole, either 345 or 161 kV lines. So that's what they're going to be doing on that one. And you can see the double circuit monopole. And that I know it's kind of small, but a double circuit monopole looks like that. You have multiple lattice structures and then the individual monopole. And then Zachary Maywood is a 60-mile line. In this one, they are going to this is in Adair, Knox, Lewis, and Marion counties. In this one, they are going, if you see this little depiction to the right, they are going to add parallel a new power line to the existing single circuit line. So you have the existing line as opposed to this segment where they're going to replace it. This one, they're going to put a double circuit next to the existing one, will not take it down. There's going to be some overlap between the two easements that they want. And then finally, the Denny and Zachary line segment. This is again, the largest of the segments. It's about 100 miles. It's in DeKalb, Davies, Grundy, Sullivan, and Adair counties. This will be, again, a single 345 kV paralleling existing new line. Again, similar to this segment. Or you might have one double circuit 345 kV line there depicted to the right. So you might have either of these types of acquisitions if you are on the Denny to Zachary line segment. So that gives you a kind of a good idea of what they're building, where it's generally going, and what they want to do. So let's talk about what the point of the project is, and what they're going to want from you. So right now, and then also, of course, the timeline. So what they are going to want from you, what the type of construction that they're going to need on your property, it's either going to be a rebuild of existing line, it's going to be a new line, a greenfield line as they're called, or there's going to be adding new line next to existing line. And what they want from you depends on where you are on the segment, obviously on the project, and what you already have existing on your property. The goal of the project is to upgrade all of these to 345 kV. For those that don't know what these numbers are in kV, this is the amount of voltage that exists on the line. That 345, as far as size is concerned, they are it's pretty significant. I would say the highest kV you can get, they're generally out west, they get into the 600s. But 345 is pretty big. A standard H frame that you see is probably 161, 138 kV. Those are the smaller, again, H frame poles, not nearly as substantial as these. These are going to be substantial pole structures that are going to be built. They require 150 feet easement, 75 feet on each side of the line to meet requirements. They will be monopoles, so it'll be one individual structure for towers. They're going to be between 80 to 100 feet tall, so they're again not going to be small by any measure, and they're going to be about 7 to 8 per mile, with about 700 to 900 feet between each tower. Now, questions we get a lot: how do I know when? How do I know where they're going to put the towers? How do I know when they're going to put the poles? When do we learn that? You're not going to learn that type of information until Ameren approaches you with an offer to purchase your property. That type of detail is usually the last thing that they determine. So you're not going to probably hear from them about that until they actually come to you and start talking about buying your property. As far as scheduling and timeline, where we're at, and this is the schedule that they have on their website. So right now, obviously, we're in mid-2025. So with phase one, which again is the two small segments on either end of the project, my read is that on those segments, they have begun contacting landowners, talking about offers, talking about easements, talking about actually acquiring extra rights. So I have seen that, and that would make sense. For the line, the large line, the huge line that goes to the middle of the state, the 100-mile line, I haven't heard a lot of contact with Ameren. No one's told me about it. No one's contacted me and said that they're snooping around. So my expectation, my expectation for phase one, you're probably going to hear from them soon, if not already, with an offer. With phase two, you're probably looking at summer to fall would be my guess. And again, I don't have inside information. Ameren does not divulge this information to me, of course. So this is an educated guess based on our experience with these types of projects and timing. So. But I think it's important to remember, that from a timeline perspective, they're looking at constructing this thing not for 2 years. And I will say, so you're not looking at construction this summer. You're not looking next summer, probably starting the summer after. So to give you a concept of where we are. So that's where they're at. They're expecting their approval from the Missouri Public Service Commission next year. So it sounds like they're gonna hope to get something next year, and then move forward with what they need to complete the project. So that's where we're at. Again, these schedules are tentative. It's really hard to nail this stuff down, only because it's such a big project and there's so many moving parts that schedules change, and it's hard for even Ameren to stick to the schedule that they might present or talk about. So ultimately, it's important to remember is that while this process kind of moves at Ameren's speed, at their pace, you have to respond. It's a scenario where they'll come to you and you need to respond. There's nothing really, you can't reach out to them and say, hey, when's my offer coming? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? I mean, you can, but what I'll tell you is that good luck getting information from them. Ameren, just like any other utility, any other large energy company, any other condemner really who's building a project, they're usually not great with providing information. They're not great until they need something from you, and when they need something from you is when they want the easement from you, and at that point is usually when you can get a lot more information. So you can try to reach out and see if they'll give you anything. I wouldn't hold my breath. A lot of it is kind of a sit and wait until they come in and start talking about acquiring your land. So let's talk about what they want from you and what they will want from you when they come in and start talking about making offers. So what they're going to want from you is an easement. And an easement is, for those that don't know, is essentially a deed, just like a deed. It's a property deed. But unlike a traditional deed where, if you sell your land or you sell your house to somebody, where you sell the entirety of the property to somebody else, an easement is a sale of the right to do something on your property. So ostensibly, you would be selling Ameren the right for them to construct, maintain a transmission line on a certain area of your property. That is what you should be doing. And that is ostensibly, again, what you'll be doing is selling an easement to them. The number one question I get from landowners about the easement documents, and it's some variation of will they be allowed to do X on the easement? And for X, you can put anything. Will I be allowed to farm? Will they be allowed to kick me out? Will I be able to cross it? Will I be able to irrigate? Can I put fencing up? What about livestock? Will they be allowed to run fiber optic cable? What can they build exactly? Can they build underground things? All of these questions. And there is an endless number of questions that can be tied to this very same issue, and that is, what are they allowed to do on the easement area? What are you allowed to do on the easement area? And the answer to that question is it all depends on what the easement says. The easement will define the rights of Ameren. The easement will define your rights within the easement. So that is going to be the document that determines whether or not they're allowed to do something or you're allowed to do something. And that's why, and we'll get into this in the next slide, that's why making sure this easement is properly drafted is going to be incredibly important for a lot of landowners here. And to make sure that whatever you end up signing away to Ameren is exactly and no more than the minimum of what you need to do. And we'll talk about how that gets a little fuzzy, but it's absolutely imperative that the easement's the document. That's the document that matters now. It's going to be the document that matters in the future and forever. So it's absolutely incumbent and imperative on the landowner to make sure that document is drafted accordingly and properly. Why is that the case? Because as I stated earlier, easements are forever. These easements are forever. Most easements are forever, I should say. They're going to want a permanent easement from you, and they might want a temporary easement for additional construction space on either side. As you might imagine, the temporary easement expires, but the permanent easement, which is where the power line is going to be, that does not expire. The easement is a permanent easement, as you might imagine. So it'll be on the title now, 10 years from now, 20 years, 30, 40, ostensibly forever. It's fair to assume it'll always be on the title. That means that if you sell the property, the easement's going to be there. That means if your kids inherit the property, if your grandkids inherit the property, the easement's going to be there. And they are going to be beholden to the same document that you signed in 2026 and 2025, whenever that document is signed. So it's not necessarily just about you. It's about the land, and it's about who's going to inherit that land, who's going to take the land subject to all these issues that might come up down the road or initially. It will always be there. And it is the responsibility, the duty of the landowner now to make sure that that future is protected through proper easement language. And the reality is, again, we do this a lot. I do this with Ameren a lot. I'm currently involved in 2 separate projects against Ameren. What I will say is that I've seen the easement that a lot of these companies, Ameren included, comes out to folks with. I haven't seen the easement on this project specifically because I have not. This is our first marketing venture. It's our first foray into this project. So I have not seen the easement on this project yet. But I have seen other easements, and I've seen other easements from Ameren. And the first document they come to landowners with invariably is a very poorly drafted easement. It gives way too much rights to Ameren. It is way too broad. It is cumbersome on the landowner. It limits the landowner's rights. It imposes liability on the landowners. Sometimes they don't even include a signature blank for Ameren. So a lot of times they don't even sign their easements. These are just some examples, and there's some examples on the slide right here that I see from easement documents that utility companies present to landowners prior to our involvement. The biggest one I see is unfettered access. They will ask for access to the easement and to adjacent land. Well, adjacent land could be all of your land. It's all adjacent to the easement. So they can theoretically use or have unfettered access, not just to the easement, not just from public roads, but to all 4 corners of the property. I've seen, and these are oftentimes referred to as blanket easements because they blanket the property. I've seen, in addition to that, jumping down to the bottom, I've seen the right to build. This is another big one that we see all the time. They'll come to you and they'll say, we just want to build a power line. This is all we want to do. We want to put it out there in your front yard or your backyard or run it through your land. That's all we want to do is just one pipeline. But if you read the document, it gives them the right to build 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as many pipeline or power lines rather as they like, and sometimes pipelines. I've seen situations where they include language that allows Ameren to sublease their easement to fiber optic cable companies. So, for example, if you signed an easement that gave Ameren the right to build the power line, but also snuck in there as a clause that allows Ameren to sublease their rights to a communications company, then what could happen is 5 years from now, if Ameren is hard up for some cash, they want to make a little extra money, they sublease the easement that you sold to them to a cable company. They make money off that. The cable goes into the easement right next to the power line, and you don't get a dime because you already sold that right off to Ameren that then subleased it to somebody else. This is just an example of how these documents can be very poorly worded, very poorly drafted, and usually need a lot of revision. I've seen another big thing is proper ground restoration. I've seen them, preclude or prevent, damage recovery in the future for landowners, so they can't recover crop losses in the future. I've seen scenarios where they don't agree to properly restore the land, or they agree to do it in a not great fashion, a not comprehensive fashion. All of these, there's an endless number of clauses that easement utility companies can add in. The important reminder is to remember who you're talking to when you're dealing with these folks. They're in the interest of, they're in the Ameren business. How about that? And they're trying to do what's best for Ameren. Regardless of what's told to you, they're looking out for them and not you. So, we talked about easement. So there's really two main components to anyone's acquisition with Ameren. There's the easement language, and then there's the money. So we talked about the easement, why it's imperative that the easement is redrafted, reworded, redlined, things taken out, things put in. That's a big part of it. The second half of it is the money. And you're entitled to both. You're entitled to a good easement, and you're entitled to just compensation for your land. And so what I say is a complete compensation package. So if you were to receive what I would deem a complete package, complete compensation package, you would have all of these things. You would have a proper price per acre. You would have a proper payment for crop or timber damages. For crops up to 5, and timber, it depends. Payment for anticipated soil and ground damages, or a clause that requires remediation. I'll give a quick story. There was a pipeline down in Missouri, down in St. Charles, Missouri, where they did not have, we represented a group of landowners, and there were some other folks that were not represented. Our group of landowners had strong language, had strong restoration language, and the energy company was required to come in and either pay the landowner for the damage they caused or actually restore the land. And then there was other folks that didn't have this clause, were not represented by us. And this pipeline was constructed during incredible torrential floods. It was, I think, three or 4 years ago here in St. Charles. You know what I'm talking about. And the trench flooded, the easement flooded, the farmland flooded. There was debris and mess everywhere. There were holes in the ground. Ponding occurred. The land was concave. It had dips, swells, all because of this poor construction activities and poor restoration activities. So because our folks, they got paid for the issues. A lot of other folks did not, because they didn't have the language. They weren't represented by counsel, and they didn't get paid the proper damages to the property that they were entitled to. Property damages are absolutely huge, and you're entitled to them in Missouri, in the state of Missouri, and they're also something that Ameren doesn't like to talk about. in addition to that, proper consideration of all other damages, including field tile, irrigation, compaction, soil mixing, debris, flooding if it occurs, hunting if it affects a hunting operation, and if your hunting operation can't, it can't be in effect because they're building the line, or if it's otherwise affected by the transmission line, that needs to be considered as well. Again, talk about things that are endless. There's an endless number of ways that your property can be damaged by a transmission line, but it's, again, like everything else, incumbent on you to make sure that you get paid properly for all of these damages. So now I want to talk about right-of-way agents, land agents. So a large majority of you probably haven't dealt with them yet, but some of you may have. In order to get all this land, Ameren is going to enlist an army of right-of-way agents. They are contracted land staff that they work for these third-party contractors. They're all over the country, and their job is to come out to landowners and basically buy their property on behalf of utility companies. Really, their job is, though, not to necessarily to buy your property. Their job is to come out and convince you that what they are offering you for your property is fair. One thing that I touched on earlier that I think it's important to remember when you're dealing with these folks, remember who is paying them. Remember where their motivations are. And that I think gives you a healthy dose of skepticism and cynicism that you might need in dealing with these things. I think that, you could be too skeptical, but it doesn't hurt to be at least a little bit skeptical when you're talking to these folks. And with this project in general, I think it's healthy to have some skepticism and just have a general skepticism where they're coming from, because you know where they're coming from. You know what they want to do, and you know that they want your land. And you also know now that they get paid for how many parcels they lock up. If they're able to convince you that their offer's fair, they get paid. The land agent gets paid. So again, another incentive for them that you need to consider. And because their job is to get your property, they deploy strategies that we've seen before, tricks, strategies, whatever, tactics, whatever you like to call them. These are tried and true for them. They work, unfortunately, and they get a lot of folks to agree to what they're offering by utilizing these tricks that we've seen. They like to make it seem like they're offering more than fair market value. They like to offer bonus payments. Usually to sign it as soon as possible. I'll note that that is a big deal for a lot of these land agents, is getting these wrapped up as soon as possible. The quicker a decision is made by a landowner, it's usually the better interest of Ameren. So I would definitely not make a quick decision, do your due diligence, and then respond. They like to ignore the big ticket items. They like to offer up crop damages or timber damages as if they won't already pay for those ahead of time. Understand that your ability to say no gives you leverage. And this situation is all about leverage and how much leverage you can get. And the ability to say no gives you leverage as a landowner, and exercising that right gives you leverage. I've seen verbal offers. They love the verbal offers. They love to make offers that are not written down. Ultimately, what I tell people, first of all, if you aren't sure if it's a good deal, ask me. And I will tell you for free. We do case reviews. I do offer reviews for free all the time, and I'm happy to give you a free case review as well. So it's as simple as sending it to me, let me look at it, and I'll give you my thoughts for free, and then you can decide what to do. One thing that I do want to, I'm going to put this in, so I'm going to write this in so everyone has it. So when the right-of-way agent comes to you and makes an offer to you, or wants to make an offer to you, here's what I tell people to say to them. So here's the phrase that I tell people. Thanks. I'll review it and get back to you in a week. Actually, let me add this. Please email it, and I'll review it and get back to you in a week. Let me get this. So why do I say this? I say this is the perfect answer to give a right-of-way agent when they're coming in and talking about making an offer. Thanks. Your thanks. Please email it. So you're getting an e-copy of it that you can then easily send to an attorney or somebody else to review. You're telling them you're on it. You're not disappearing into the ether. You're talking to them and it's on your radar. You'll review it and then you'll get back to them in a week. This is a good answer because it gives you time to do what you want. You're not blowing them off, which is good because if you do blow them off, they're just going to be more persistent. Right-of-way agents like to be either your best friend or your worst enemy. And this keeps some distance between you and the right-of-way agent. It keeps everything in writing also. One thing that I strongly recommend, do not engage in verbal discussions with these folks. Do not start talking about numbers. Don't start negotiating when they come and tell you what they think you're gonna what you're entitled to. Say, send it to me. I'll review it. I'll get back to you in a week. And in that week, you can send it to me. I'll look at it. I'll give you my thoughts, and you can decide what you want to do. This is the best response you can have. And I will add on top of this, and I'll just stress, make sure any communications with right-of-way agents is done in writing. Verbal conversations mean nothing for you. They don't mean anything for how much compensation you're going to get. Them promising to do things by mouth and by an oral recitation, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything now, and it won't mean anything 50 years from now when they're doing things they told you 50 years ago they wouldn't do at your dinner table. They don't mean anything. Make sure all your communications are in writing. If they want to make an offer, if they want to increase their offer, if they want to change their easement, tell them to put it in an email and tell them to send it. That way you will have a record that you can refer to. So if there's any dispute, you can just refer to that. Okay. And I'm gonna speed through this so we can take some more questions, but I am almost to the end of the presentation. How does eminent domain play in this? So first of all, what is eminent domain? Eminent domain is the power of usually governments, public entities, to seize private land and put it to a public use. Utilities are included in that group of folks that have eminent domain authority. Ameren has this ability, so they have the ability to acquire the property and put it to a public use. Once they get that the Service Commission certificate, it's a foregone conclusion that they will be able to condemn land, file eminent domain lawsuits, take your land that way. So that's why we're here, because this changes. It's a kink in the negotiations. You're not selling your property to your neighbor. You're selling your property to an entity that can take it ultimately through the court system. The way the eminent domain process works in Missouri, there is a pre-condemnation offer where negotiations may or may not take place. There's an offer that will be issued to you. That's where our firm gets involved. Our firm gets involved when the offers are made. There may be some level of negotiation. There may not, depending on how Ameren wants to approach it. If a deal can't be reached with the landowner, eventually they need to get the land. So this is after the Public Service Commission docket. They will file a lawsuit in the county where the property is located, and the eminent domain will be effectively be over just compensation. And it's important, and you are entitled to a jury trial. So basically, there's a lawsuit, and they get the land, and then the lawsuit is effectively over how much money are you entitled to. And you do have a jury trial, like I said. And I say that specifically because a lot of folks, Ameren will use the words eminent domain as a cudgel. They'll say all sorts of things about eminent domain. They'll use it as a scare tactic. The goal is, of course, to get you to accept their offer. So remember, you're always entitled to just compensation at eminent domain. And just compensation means ultimately it's not up to Ameren what you're entitled to. It's not up to you what you're entitled to. It's up to a jury what you're entitled to, a jury of your peers, I should say. So that is eminent domain. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about hiring us, and then I'm going to answer the questions that exist. This is how our firm operates. We generally operate on a contingency fee agreement. An example would be if you had a $10,000 offer from Ameren, we get you 50. Our firm, so in that scenario, we added 40. We collect a third of the 40. You end up with the rest. It all comes out at the end. We do it this way because we're in the same boat. I think folks understand that, if we're all looking for the same thing on the same page, trying to get as much money as possible, trying to get a good easement, then they can trust that what we're doing is on their behalf because we're also doing it on our behalf as well because we're invested in your case. Hourly is available if you're interested in more traditional rate. We can talk about that, and we can talk about contracts if you have an offer off. I can talk about it offline individually. If you don't have an offer, it's a little early to get involved in the legal arrangement. So sit tight if you haven't offer yet. Once you get that offer, you're about to get it, let me know. We can go from there. And just a little bit about our experience, just so you know what we're doing, and then I'm going to go through these questions. We do this a lot, as I said earlier. These are some examples of projects that I've worked on specifically. The Ameren Illinois Rivers project, that was a cross-state Illinois Ameren project. We worked on that about 4 years ago. We got all the landowners more money than what was offered. The Spire SDL pipeline, formerly Laclede Spire, that's a case that I worked on down in St. Charles County. Also some parcels in Illinois. The Grain Belt Clean Line and is a notorious power line crossing Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and into Indiana. Represent landowners on that as well. And 2 other Illinois Ameren projects I'm working on against. Those are ongoing. This isn't even close to the list of the number of projects we've worked on. I'm on a power line in Michigan. I got a pipeline in Illinois. We have a power line in Tennessee. It's just, we're all over the place, and we've seen quite a bit. So next steps, and I will answer these questions. As soon as you receive an offer, you should hire an attorney. Until then, start developing a plan of attack. Start developing strategies, priorities, things you want to avoid, things you want to accomplish. If you have a group, if you have a bunch of neighbors that are together, that can be very helpful for everybody. So if you have a group, that's great. It's great for everyone. If I go to Ameren and say I represent, 200 landowners, that's going to be a big deal. And that leverage, I talked about leverage earlier, that leverage that then I have trickles down to all of my clients individually. So it's beneficial for everybody. So with that being said, I will open it up to questions. I will answer these questions. If you have offers, please go ahead and send them to my email address. You can text them to my cell. That's my cell, or you can fax it to that number right there. And with that being said, I will open this up. First question, will you email out the PowerPoint? Yeah, if you want the PowerPoint, just email me. My email address is right there. I'll send you a copy. Will you share the recording as well? Yes, this webinar will be recorded, and if you register, even if you register tomorrow or down the road, you'll always be able to view it, a recording. So it will be recorded, and you should be able to view it. Another question about will you be sharing a copy of the presentation, your slides? Yes, we will. Isn't upgrading our power system a good thing? Why would we try and stop a good thing? I don't know. I have no comment on that or what people want to do or don't want to do. Some people don't want projects to happen and they try to stop them. So, also we are not going to be doing raised hands. Please put the questions in the chat or in the Q&A. For the lines that already exist, is this land owned by Ameren or is it leased from the property owner? It looks like most of these lines will stay on the same path. So if there's already a power line on your property, Ameren is very likely the holder of that easement that exists. It'll be, so if you go to your title record, if you go to your deed record, you'll see that easement on your property. And that easement will spell out exactly what Ameren's rights are on the existing line. Again, this is for properties that already have lines on them. There should be an easement on your title, which will spell out Ameren's rights under that easement. So they are going to, of course, stay around the same path, that's for sure. But even acquisitions that are in the same area can still have important impacts. So that's the ownership situation. Does Ameren reach out via phone or mail? Both. They'll stop by in person. When they want to make an offer to you, they're going to make their presence felt. I can't stress that enough. It is not a light touch when Ameren stops by. They want to contact landowners. They will call, they'll stop by, they'll email somehow, they'll mail. The right-of-way agent's job is to get in touch with you. So, they're good at it and they will absolutely be contacting you. They'll contact you however they can. And in fact, they'll continue to do it unless you specifically tell them not to. And even then, they'll do it. Usually, it needs to come from an attorney for them to completely ignore you and stop bothering you. Would it be possible to form a landowner association that everyone gets paid the same amount for the easement? So that's an interesting idea. I like the idea. I don't know how it would work in practice because everyone's land's different. This is not a class action law firm, or excuse me, not a class action case. Everybody's property is going to be affected differently. So a property line taking, for example, is going to be different from one that goes right through the middle of some farm ground. A power line that goes 13 feet from your front door is different from a power line that's going to be running on your back 40 that's wooded and completely separated from everything. So I like the ambition. I like where your head's at for sure. But ultimately, it's kind of everyone on your own a little bit. It's an individualized case. You can leverage your individualized results by being part of a group that has the same counsel. That's the only thing that I can see in the same vein. But because property is different legally speaking, getting a fixed payment per parcel per landowner is going to be tough. Somebody says they already have an offer. Should I set up a consult via email? Absolutely. Whatever's easiest for you. You can email me, you can text me, you can call me. If you want to I'll tell you what, folks, it's as simple as just sending me an offer. You don't need to text me or call me and say, can I send your offer? You can just send it. Just put it in an attachment and send it to my email and I'll look at it. I'm not going to bill you for it. We don't operate like that. You're not going to get an invoice from me. If you got an offer, take a picture of it with your phone. All I need is the easement, the map, and the compensation offer, and that'll be enough for me to do my job. But again, you don't need to call me first before you send something. Just send it. Just text it to me, and I will get back to you. And that's how we work. That's how I work. Okay. Other questions? Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, which is fine. Not a problem. We are early in the process, so that's not surprising. I think a lot of folks are still kind of wrapping their head around what is going on and what's happening. We got some time. We are ahead of the curve, so to speak. You're ahead of the game, just being a part of this presentation, learning this. So you are prepared for this. If you and with that, there aren't any other questions, it looks like. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and end this webinar. Oh, we got some questions. Hold on. I don't want to leave you hanging. Somebody thanked me for my information. You're absolutely welcome. And if anyone's especially thankful for my presentation, feel free to jump on Google, find our law firm, and give us a good review on Google. We'd appreciate it. Will the study area be part of the easement? The study area is I believe, the 500-foot corridor that Ameren has chosen to run their ultimate route. So the corridor is not, the email and the PowerPoint is different from your website. Yes, they both work. Jordan at landownerattorneys.com or Jordan at swp-legal.com. They're the same. They go to the same place. Will the study area be part of the easement? No, it won't. The study area is much bigger than the size of the easement. The easement's going to be about 150 feet, depending on what type of acquisition is involved. The corridor area is, I think, 500 feet. So no, it's not going to be a 500-foot easement. It'll be 150 feet, give or take, depending on what type of acquisition. Thank you. We'll be reaching out when we get okay, absolutely. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for your questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any other ones, and we are up against it from a time perspective. If you have questions and you didn't get them out, that's fine. You can text me, you can email me. For questions, I think texting and emailing is easiest, it's quickest. If you call me, I'll call you back, but it might take longer. So if you want a quick answer, you just want a question, then just go ahead and text it or email. You don't need to call it. It'd probably be quicker. So You are absolutely welcome. And everyone is welcome for the information. And thank you for stopping by. I appreciate everyone's time and your questions. Somebody has a co-op offering. If you have any offers from any utility companies, just send them. We'll look at them for free. Or MoDOT for that matter. This is our area of expertise. So it doesn't matter. Just send it. And we'll look at it and I'll tell you whether or not it's something we can do or not. Okay. Well, thank you again, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll get this webinar out. Please text, call, or text, email with questions. Good luck, and everybody have a good night.